When food isn't something you can pick naturally around you, you become aware that food is like a right that you have, but it's not always there. It's not always available in the same way that it is when you grow up in a landscape full of food and you have the knowledge to pick it and understand it.
It was definitely a very daunting place, and I think it was a very grey day when we first walked in here, and it had been raining and it just looked like it had been abandoned. And for a place that is right in the middle of everything, it was a really kind of almost sad, I think. You were like, why has this been left behind?
Well, there was garbage everywhere. We picked up 5 cubic metres of garbage here, and there was kicked in windows, and there was kicked in doors, and there was no keys for the place, and it had a very, very empty feel, like abandoned, neglected, empty feel.
Yes, I could see it was abandoned, but I felt excited. I could see the potential immediately because I'd seen how places like this around the world could be transformed into flourishing places of health and happiness and connection.
When I first saw it, I looked at it and I went, oh, that's quite a small space. I don't know how you could grow food here.
I think it's important that we're able to expand upon the traditional concept of what a farm means. It doesn't have to be, your typical big rural area. It can actually be in spaces such as this one that are in the middle of the city, and you can produce food in many different ways.
But really it's also a place for education and for sanctuary for people, for healing. So in a way we're healing this place right now, and people are going to come here for healing. There's a lot of people talking about in our co-design things, the need for healing, the need for positive spaces, the need for people to connect with environment and place.
I think I really see it as somewhere that people are coming together and sharing parts of themselves and feeling really, really welcome here.
It was just such a nice sense of community, and I think that at the moment it's really, really important for us to be building up communities with people locally and focusing more on, how we can help each other get through this together, and the importance of, growing our own food and becoming less reliant on big companies and big business and stuff, I think is really important to me.
I think the vision would be like a family-friendly, people-friendly space where people can get together, grow food, learn about growing food.
It's holistic when it's collective.
Yeah.
You think about how ecosystems work. No plant or animal survives on its own. It has to be within a community, and that's kind of what we're mimicking here, and it's more sustainable when it's collective.
Yeah.
Looking at nature's systems in that way, ecosystems, and then reflecting that into your, everyday life or everyday practice or whatever you're doing, makes things a lot stronger, doesn't it?
A group of people in an ecosystem, being a part of it, doing what we're meant to kind of do, make our own food and eat it. And I think that's really just mentally on its own right, the changes which that can do are fantastic.
Before we could actually bring in infrastructure and start getting things happening on the ground, we wanted to involve and engage the community and, importantly, organisations in this neighbourhood to see what they would like to see here, and to imagine it, to co-imagine it, to co-create the space before we actually went in to occupy the space physically and start to put things on the ground.
If you just ask people straight off, what do you want in an urban food garden? They'd be like, oh, carrots? I don't know, something like that. But going through that process and even doing that process online, we got a much deeper insight into what people really wanted. it started with your typical, we'd like to run yoga classes or we'd like to do this, but then it got down to that thing of sanctuary and having a place of safety. And I think that was really quite profound in that way. And I'd never really thought about designing those things into a space.
Having done the co-design process and some of the things that people are bringing to the table and ideas, I think there's so much potential here now. And a lot of people tended to connect with their childhood in these co-design workshops and talking about how they did things when they were kids and how they climbed trees and things.
I think to make a project such as this one a success, because it is embedded within the community and it's about the community, you need to listen to the community and really engage with what the community is asking for.
Yeah. And I think that's what happened here in the end through those kind of events, because you can't, we could have come in here and put up veggie boxes and been like, you've got a garden now, but that doesn't give it any longevity. It doesn't make people feel like they belong or they own it or are a deep part of it. And obviously we're a pretty transient team in that way, we won't be here for the whole time. So them, the community having some input and ownership and direction is really important to give the project life, I think.
Absolutely.
I think I heard about it when the open day was being advertised, and so that was an online thing, and it was really interesting hearing different people's ideas about the space. And I think being in lockdown, I was really looking forward to what many other people were looking forward to, which was getting involved and forming community, but also just getting out into nature and feeling like I'm part of the local space and contributing to something positive.
So it's one of those things where I feel if you have a really strong social purpose and vision, it's almost, it sounds a little bit sort of spiritual, but I think there is an energetic dimension to this where you align what you're doing with a higher goal and purpose that's for community benefit, and the resources that you need, you can find them if you ask and look for them. I think we've lived through a time and still living through a time of a lot of division, a lot of fear. It's a time of really generalised anxiety about a lot of things, about the pandemic obviously, about climate change, about what does the future hold, about, there's a lot of uncertainty, a lot of angst, a lot of anxiety, and we see that, there's lots of statistics about levels of kind of depression and mental health challenges. We're told it's a huge challenge facing this country. Loneliness is another big one, and that's obviously been exacerbated dramatically during the pandemic with lockdowns and social isolation, distancing, all that stuff. So I think there's a real need for spaces like this where people can, rebuild those social bonds, can really come back together, can reweave their friendships, can make new friendships, can connect with each other. It's been amazing to see with energy, with support, with resourcing, with goodwill, just how quickly you can transform a semi-vandalised, vacant, degraded, unloved site like this into a space of hope and joy and connection and meaning for the community.
The thing you want to do is to build success. So volunteers feel energised if there's little successes all the time. And this is what we're doing, and we're having big success this morning.
There's a lot of hope in this place, I think. I think it offers a little bit of hope.
Yeah.
And that things can change, that you could turn your house and backyard and front yard into a completely different food system, and that's what it shows.
Yeah.
I think going back to that stuff about, you know, it is a house with a front yard and backyard, and how do you turn that into an urban farm? It's like, well, the point is to show anyone that they can do that is a possibility.
Well, my vision is for it to be a place where the community expresses itself. So I have some ideas about how this farm could be, but also that needs to be very much open to all the people working here and the community or communities of the area, organisations. So what we're trying to do here really is create a safe, healed, energetic space for people around food and food justice and gardening to express themselves.
And so I'd like this space to be a community space where people can grow food, they can come together, kids can have a space where they can play and have adventurous play.
If someone walks in, is able to walk in the front gate and they have no idea about who's here, all they know is it's a food justice farm, and they're able to walk up to someone and say, "Hello, I am me," and they are accepted, and they are able to spend time in this place as a sanctuary, that alone is a win in my mind.
Our vision is an Australia whose towns and cities are edible. We believe that there should be an abundance of fresh and healthy food everywhere, that nobody should be hungry. There's absolutely no excuse for anybody in Australia to be food insecure in a country as rich as we are with the resources and capacity that we have. Our cities should be bursting at the seams with healthy, fresh food. If you want to get involved in the Oakhill Food Justice Farm, come along and volunteer. Come along and be part of a working bee, and talk to us about whether there's an opportunity in your neighbourhood for something similar, and how we could make this vision of edible towns and streetscapes throughout Australia a reality.